Hi, Yin and Yang listeners. This is James here. I just want to give you all some context about this episode. It's with filmmaker Valerie Soe that we recorded in early 2020 before the Oscars and also before the COVID-19 pandemic. We touch on some deaths, unfortunate deaths that happened in the end of 2019, and I feel that uh, the topics discussed are still relevant today, particularly with the recent loss of a cast member on Terrace House. I feel that the topics of cyberbullying, suicidal ideation, and learning to cope with this modern world is ever more relevant. And thank you for listening.
Yin, yang,
Yin and yang. Oh, yin and yang.
Welcome back to Yin and Yang, the podcast. We are here with filmmaker Valerie Soe.
Hi.
Yay! So yeah, if you want to speak into this mic here, and cool. Yeah, thanks for doing this. Yeah,
Sure.
thanks for
Oh,
coming
yeah,
on.
thank you very much.
Well,
Yeah.
I'm glad it worked out. Yeah, because I'm here.
Very unprofessional. I'll start with eating an apple.
So why don't I talk to Valerie while you chew on that apple?
all right, yeah.
So, how did you meet James?
We were trying to remember that. I think it was at one of the Asian American film festivals up here in San Francisco. So it was probably CamFest, and I don't even know, maybe 10 years ago? Seems like a long time ago. Yeah. So,
And then what brings you down to LA? I know you're not from LA, so.
yeah, I'm here to show my newest movie, which is Love Boat Taiwan. It's a documentary, and so I'm just like touring it around at this point. So it played at a local art gallery down here in Los Angeles yesterday. Yeah.
Okay, cool. And then
Wow.
I know we were talking about that before
Mhm.
we started recording. Did you went on the Love Boat in college?
Yeah, I went on a Love Boat in college a
And
long
did you
time
find
ago.
love?
What
Did-
happens in Taiwan stays in Taiwan. That's what I always say. I found a love for Taiwan.
Okay. Yeah, I know in college when I went to UCSD, also in the 90s, a bunch of my friends, not all of them, but a few of my Asian American friends, like the Taiwanese guys,
Mhm.
they totally were talking about the Love Boat.
Yeah, it was a
And,
big deal in the 90s. You know, definitely like a thing in the 80s, 90s, and early 2000s. Yeah,
How did you find out about it? I never asked my friends how they found out about it, but they all knew.
I can't remember, honestly. I'm sure like my parents or something figured it out. And,
It's through the Chinese,
it's the
news
mafia.
system.
Yeah, it's like
The Chinese mafia, yeah.
right? You just, I don't know. Because it wasn't advertised or anything. It's not like there was, a call for applications or anything. So, I mean, probably my parents found out it was like a really cheap trip. Like it was, when I went, I want to say it was $400 for 6 weeks plus airfare.
Oh wow,
Yeah.
Super cheap, yeah.
Super cheap, and that included all your like room and board and travel, except getting to Taiwan. You had to pay
Right.
your way to Taiwan. So
Do you still did you make a lot of friends and did you like keep in touch with any of the friends that you made on the Love Boat?
I didn't really keep in touch with them, but when I started making the movie, then I started to reconnect with them. So so there's a couple. I think there's at least one person in the movie who went the same year as me.
Oh.
So
Okay.
yeah.
I'm gonna just move these tables a little closer.
Okay.
Let's see.
And James, did you go?
I did not. I watched the Love Boat recently when Valerie had a screening at
El Monte.
El Monte, yeah.
Yeah.
And
It-
and I watched. Yeah, go ahead.
Sorry, maybe we should explain what the Love Boat is. I don't think it's
Sure.
a very.
It's like
cliche-
we're talking like everyone knows. Yeah. The Love Boat was a program set up by the then KMT government that ran Taiwan
Like the ruling party.
The ruling party
for a long time.
until Chen Shui-bian won in the 90s. So the Love Boat was a program to get overseas Chinese from all parts of the world, not just America, to visit Taiwan, not on a boat, but like by plane. No boat, literally. But men, women, young men, women, boys, girls, to visit Taiwan for cultural exchange, and they would take them to see military compounds, right?
Yeah, a lot of cultural stuff.
Cultural stuff,
like the National Palace Museum, And then we also supposedly learned Mandarin.
Supposedly,
and like, brush painting and stuff and martial arts. So, yeah. And it was mostly college age. There were some people who went when they were like a little younger, like maybe high schoolish. But they were really aiming for that sweet spot of people who were in college. Yeah. And so, the government sold it as like a cultural trip. But quickly it became apparent when you have like 800 or 1,000 college-age people away from home for 6 weeks together for a while, it turns into the Love Boat. So yeah.
So people hooking up, right?
People hooking up, yeah. And I think that after a while the government knew that, and they still they didn't actively promote it as that, but they didn't discourage it either. So I think that they knew that was kind of a way to get people to come. So, yeah.
Did the moniker Love Boat come, like, obviously not at the start of the program, which was in the 60s.
60s, yeah. I mean, when I went in the 80s, I don't think it was called Love Boat. It was called, like, the study tour. It was a really long name that nobody remembers. When I went, it was something like Overseas Chinese Youth Language Study Tour and something to the Republic of China. Or something really super long name. And it changed every few years according to, like it changed to Formosa at one point.
Oh, wow.
It changed to Taiwan. It changed, really crazy.
It was like 华裔, like 华裔 means overseas Chinese 华裔, 交换什么什么文化, blah, blah, blah. So basically,
Yeah. But then, of course, the nickname was American Canada Camp. So Meijin, whatever.
Canada, 加拿大的,
yeah. So it wasn't, because it was mostly kids from North America.
But it's in Jintan, right?
It's in Jintan, in northern Taipei.
In northern Taipei, near the Siling Night Market.
Yeah.
I used to live near there, and I passed by the overseas. I didn't go because when I was like, I was planning to live in Taiwan after college.
Right.
So I think the idea of going to Love Boat was like, it seems a little bit redundant for me because and also I have family in Taiwan.
Yeah.
So it seemed like it was geared for like let's be honest, like bananas a little bit.
People who didn't know so much about Taiwan. because then they could brainwash you more easily into believing their propaganda.
The propaganda, the KMT.
Is it still going?
Not really. No, I mean it has like a little tiny version now. Because when I went, it was 800 people, and then in the 90s it was like 1,200 people, and then now it's like 100 people, and it's only 3 weeks. So it's really not the same thing. Yeah. And
do you know? The Koreans actually have a version of it too.
Yeah, Benson Lee made a movie about it.
Soul Searching. Yeah.
I actually asked him to come on, but he's super swamped too. Yeah.
We were trying to find a Korean.
We were trying to find a Korean for this topic. But sorry, Dan, you had another question.
Oh no, that was it. I mean that was well.
Have you heard good things about like the Korean version, or was it also same? Was it also like people hooking up, or have you heard much about it?
I mean, I only know about it because of Soul Searching. I'm going to take my sweater and actually show you this sweater because this is like the swag.
Oh, you got swag. We got swag here.
You can.
Oh wow! What?
Love Boat. Woo!
Oh, nice.
We'll have for our people listening on iTunes or Spotify. She's showing a Love Boat sweater. We'll have a link.
You can buy them
for the merch below. Support the film, independent
filmmaking. There's
Filmmaking.
T-shirts, and sweaters, and tote bags and stuff.
Yeah.
Because I had two giant crowdfunding campaigns, and so this is the stuff we made to give away as the perks.
Yeah, and Valerie was a big help. She kind of coached me before I started my Kickstarter or during my Kickstarter campaign.
Right, yeah.
So yeah, special thanks for that.
Yeah, because it's a lot of work.
It's crazy.
It's super crazy and stressful.
Yeah, but Dan, sorry, you had another follow up. Before I interrupted.
I think so.
Yeah,
I don't even remember.
Okay.
These days my memory's very bad.
Yeah.
I'm actually reading a memory book right now, like Moonwalking with Einstein. Have you guys heard of it?
No.
Yeah, it's basically a guy, as a journalist, he starts preparing for the memory championships where they memorize decks of cards and hundreds of digits and numbers and stuff. And it's interesting. It's basically using spatial awareness as a memory trick, like memory palaces.
Like where you're sitting? Or
Yeah, or like you can do that, or some people attach emotions to certain things. Like if it's a poem they want to remember, they'll say, okay, this first section reminds me of sadness, blue, or something like that. So so it's kind of like, you know what synesthesia is?
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's basically like connecting multiple senses for a
Right.
particular object or thing that you see. Yeah.
Or like if you touch something. It reminds
Yeah,
you of
yeah,
touch.
yeah.
Or smell.
So it's interesting because like when I visit a place I was listening to an audiobook before, it'll trigger a memory of like, oh, I remember I was listening to that Stephen King book on Audible at that time,
Yeah.
blah blah blah, something like that.
For sure, yeah.
So he talks about like actually like using memory palaces to like place your memories like in with your imagination. It's interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, they say like if you're taking a class, you should sit in the same seat that you've been sitting in. So when you take the test,
Oh.
same
It's
idea.
kind of tricks you.
It makes you remember whatever it is you were supposed to remember. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
But I guess pivoting to like one thing that I was interested is some of your writing that you do for your blog for on Beyond Asiaphilia.
Yeah, beyondasiaphilia.com.
Yeah, Beyond Asiaphilia. And how long has that blog been going?
You know, it's been since like 2008.
That's
It's
great.
weird. It's
Yeah.
crazy because it's like I didn't think it would be that long. When you start, it's just like, oh, I just want to write whatever
Right.
comes into my head, and it's weird.
Because you were filmmaking much longer, right?
Yeah, since I was in college, so same time as Lumpo. So yeah, I mean that's my main thing is making movies, and then the blog thing. I don't even. Oh, you know what? It was because I was fangirling on this Hong Kong actor, Francis Ng.
Okay.
We Chen Yu, and I was like writing to my friends about all those movies that I loved, and they said you should just blog, dude. And so, and so I did, and so it started out being just about like this actor, and then it started to expand more to like Hong Kong movies, and then Asian American like art and activism and music, and and so it's just like become like this great place that I can write about whatever I want, because there's no, when you had to publish stuff, you had to like it has to go through many layers, right? So the blogging thing is just like immediate. You write it, you post it, it's there. But I never thought that people would want to read it.
You got popular, like when your post had like 40 comments and like bunch of 1,000 views. Yeah.
Yeah, that was longer though, because long ago people used to comment more on blogs. Now they don't so much.
Yeah, not so much now. Yeah.
But still, people do read. I mean, I get hits every day, so it's not like it's weird. It's strange. Yeah.
How often do you write for that blog?
What's that?
How often do you write for that blog? How often do you post an article?
It varies. I mean, sometimes it just, like I said, it's just whenever I feel like writing something. So sometimes it's like once a week, sometimes it's once a month, sometimes it's every 3 months. I mean, probably like at the peak of when I used to write, it would be like once a week.
Wow, and that's
a lot.
That's a lot, yeah. Especially,
but they're short. They're only like 500 words, and a lot of them are just movie reviews. Like I see a movie and
Oh, I saw your Ip Man review.
Yeah.
Ip Man 4. Have you seen that, Dan?
No, no. I haven't
You
seen
might
it.
appreciate it, but it's
big
so it's big cheese, yeah, for sure. It's like big racist whitey looks down on
Big,
Chinese kung fu.
bad acting, whitey.
Yeah. But he's super.
It's really awful.
He's super good at Japanese martial arts or
Karate.
Yeah.
And so karate, so Japan still becomes like the bad guy.
Like somehow, like they still sneak in the anti-Japanese
Right. Just
sentiment.
because they want, it's like getting the jab in against Japan.
Yeah.
But I mean, it's completely diverged from history at this point, right?
Oh, yeah.
I mean,
I mean, come
Bruce
on.
Lee's in it. Bruce Lee's in it, and he has a fight in the alleyway with some other bad guy.
That was ridiculous. Like, where did this guy come from?
I don't know.
Why is this random karate guy in the alley challenging Bruce Lee?
It makes no sense. Because it's.
Did you watch the spin-off from Ip Man?
Oh, Z-Man or whatever.
I don't know what it was. It was on Netflix.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah,
no.
there's like Z-Man. It's like the other guy that does Wing Chun. I think it was the guy that he fought in Ip Man 3.
I don't watch TV, so I don't know. Man, that's too much. That's too much to keep track of. I mean, the movies themselves are hard enough to keep track of without. Yeah.
But yeah, before we get into it, just a little bit of background about yourself. You're Chinese American.
I'm Chinese American, but I went on Love Boat because at that time when I went Taiwan thought everybody was Chinese. Like the government just said you were Chinese, even though if there was no idea of being Taiwanese.
Are you like, so let's break this down. What kind of Chinese are you?
I'm from Guangzhou.
Guangzhou?
Cantonese.
So your family speaks Cantonese.
My family speaks Toisan.
Oh, wait. So your family's from Toisan.
Toisan. Yeah, they're actually Toisanese.
Oh.
So, you know, I mean, yeah. So, I mean, if you want to be really specific.
Both sides of your parents.
I think so, yeah. I mean, they speak slightly different dialects. Like my dad speaks Samyup and my mother speaks Seyup. So it's third dialect or fourth dialect.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, but it's close enough, right? So it's sort of a variation of Cantonese, except it's like more country. Like Toisan is kind of like the Mississippi of Guangzhou. So you can just imagine, yeah.
Yeah, Toisan. A lot of people from Toisan moved to the U.S.
Yeah, from the Pearl River Delta. The first wave of Chinese immigrants tended to be from that area, and I guess because it's close to the ocean, and probably there was like some famine or something happening at that time. And then once one person goes, right, then a bunch of people.
Chain migration.
Chain migration, yeah.
So, and you grew up where?
I grew up in the Bay.
Okay,
So,
San Francisco? Or?
No, in this horrible suburb of San Francisco called Pinole in Contra Costa County.
Oh,
Yeah, although I was
Yes.
born in
Quite-
Berkeley. You know, I was born in
Oh.
Oakland or Berkeley or something. But my dad's from Berkeley. Like he was born and raised in Berkeley. So I'm fourth generation on my dad's side.
wow.
Oh,
Yeah,
wow.
Yeah. So my grandmother was born in the U.S.
Oh, okay.
Weirdly.
On your dad's side.
Yeah, and the third on my mom's side.
Oh, wow.
Because we're from that early wave of Chinese immigration.
Right, Toisan.
Yeah,
Okay,
that's
I get it.
Yeah.
Like
That's crazy.
The 49ers?
Maybe a little after that. I would say
Yeah.
maybe like, right around the turn of the 20th century, though, for sure, I think. Yeah.
I'm not talking about
Not the football.
not the football team, but like the Gold Rush.
The Gold
yeah.
Rush people. Yeah. But that's why so my family never has lived in Taiwan, but going back to Taiwan, but my mom's family was really active in the nationalists, the KMT party in China. When it was, what's his name? Sun Yat-sen.
Chiang Kai-shek, Sun Yat-sen, yeah.
When they were buddies, right? When they were still friends.
They're Cantonese
The First
dudes.
Republic,
Yeah. They're Cantonese-speaking dudes.
Yeah. So here's what I say. This is what I think. So if my mom's family had not come over in the 1920s or 10s, right, they either would have stayed in China, and then when the KMT lost in 1949 to the communists, then they would have gone to Taiwan.
Oh.
So, but they migrated before that.
Oh.
So I
The
think
what if.
I think that's probably one of the reasons why I got into Love Boat, because there's probably some list somewhere who are the nationalist families in the U.S. and like my mom's family is probably on that list.
Okay.
Because they don't tell you what the criteria is of what gets you into.
What
Love
gets
Boat.
you selected?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, there's guesses. I think the only criteria is you could not have been born in Taiwan or China in the beginning. Yeah, but then they started looking for people from Ivy Leagues.
Oh, geez.
Smart kids, and then from the UCs, right? So you got a little leg up with that.
That's interesting because in my Taiwanese circles, we had like Taiwanese youth camp or in America, but a lot of those people were green.
Yeah, that's right, because they were the ones who got exiled.
So
the 70s.
that's why Love Boat, my parents never really pushed me to do Love Boat,
Right.
even though we had heard about it.
Yeah.
But I think there's a party division.
Yeah,
Love Boat is very blue, which is KMT.
Right.
And then, we had the youth camp, stuff like that, which
Yeah.
is more like, oh, you learn about Taiwanese independence.
Right. Yeah, and democracy.
And
right?
democracy. Yeah.
Yeah, because a lot of those people were the ones who came over to go to school here, and then they either couldn't get back into Taiwan because they were banned, right?
Yeah.
Or they didn't want to go back because they didn't want
to.
to be thrown in jail because it was during martial law.
Yeah.
So that's like a whole other separate thing. Yeah.
So you grew up I know in the doc you mentioned in the interview you mentioned you grew up in a mostly white neighborhood then?
Yeah, in Pinole.
Okay.
In Pinole. Yeah.
So do you think that kind of maybe when did this like Asian identity formation happen for you, I guess? Asian American, yeah.
I went to UCLA and I started to take Asian American Studies classes, so probably around then, but that's right around the same time as Love Boat too, right?
Oh,
It's
interesting.
so I'm not sure, if there was if Love Boat was I don't think Love Boat was the thing that started me thinking about that, but it definitely helped me more think about Asian American identity. Yeah, because I was always kind of interested in that when I was in college anyway.
Okay.
Yeah. But it just kind of made it even more.
Do you have to apply for Love Boat?
Yeah, there's some vague application process that is very generic. You know, you put your
And
name,
you
you
know,
put the province your family's from, you put maybe what school you're from, your age, and if you have no infectious diseases, you can't have infectious diseases.
right.
So,
Right.
and
Like
I
you
think
get
that's still like the application today.
Oh wow.
Yeah, maybe not the what college part, but yeah, but definitely the infectious diseases thing.
Do people get rejected?
Yeah, back in the day, they used to get rejected a lot. My younger sister applied. I want to say like the year after I went, and she didn't get in.
What?
Oh.
Yeah, but she was at San Diego State, and I was at UCLA.
Oh.
So you see what I'm saying here?
They're like, oh, we're looking
yeah.
at the school.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Although I was told if she reapplied the second time, she probably would have gotten in.
Yeah.
But it was definitely impacted. Yeah, for sure.
Oh.
Yeah. And so a lot of people would pull strings. So then, if you were in like the KMT families, you would call up, hey, my nephew wants to go on this trip. Can you please talk to the general and get him in? And I've talked to some people who said, yeah, that's how I got in. My parents just called up their friend.
And then you studied film at UCLA, or
I studied art.
studied art?
I got an
Oh, okay.
MFA in fine arts.
Fine
yeah.
arts. Okay.
Yeah, because I couldn't get into film school because my grades
Your
were too
grade.
low.
You got an UCLA though. I mean.
Yeah. I was a pre-bio major.
Oh.
Can I get my water?
Yeah, go
Can we
for it.
pause
Yeah,
a second?
pause for a
All right,
second.
just gonna get my water.
Okay. I'm gonna turn off my VPN, so if I get disconnected, I'll call you right back.
Yeah, that's fine. Yeah. You're on a VPN, Dan? Like, what are you?
What are you calling from China? Okay.
All right. Yeah. So then, just briefly about your when did the filmmaking like kind of become like basically? It seems like your life career.
When I was an undergraduate, I mean, like I said, I wanted to be in the film department, but I couldn't get in. So then I started taking art classes, and it was more like experimental video, like art videos, which was great because then you could make these really short, unusual things as opposed to learning conventional filmmaking, which is what they probably would have taught me at UCLA, just like narrative filmmaking, 3-part structure or documentary, just straight stuff. So being in the art department, it was a lot more creative for me. And also I was also doing a lot of Asian American activism at that time.
Oh,
so
cool.
it all kind of meshed together really well. Yeah. So in some ways it was good that I had terrible grades.
it kind of guided you to your career
Got
choice.
me to where
I
I'm
guess,
going. Yeah, and then I went to art school for my MFA, and and then I came back and I was, I worked for no money in an office for a long time.
Oh, jeez.
So, but I was always making little short films.
Okay.
So, yeah.
So like your fine arts, there was kind of like a push for you to like mess with different medias. Or
Yeah,
that's cool.
yeah. And just being more like literally like experimental with the way that you make the movie. So you weren't just making like a straight documentary or like a fiction film.
Yeah.
So like more artsy stuff. Like one of the very earliest things I made was all just like hand drawn images shot live in a notebook, and I would just turn the page and draw the next thing.
Oh, very cool.
So yeah, it was fun. Yeah.
And
And also that was also partially because they had really cheap equipment in the art department, so you had to be really kind of imaginative with what you did. They didn't have nice cameras or anything.
Right,
And there was
yeah.
the editing systems were non-existent or really crummy.
Okay.
So it wasn't like now where you can shoot on your laptop.
Yeah,
and
or your
edit.
phone.
Yeah. I mean, I don't think people even can like understand how terrible it used to be. So
Yeah.
So I just kind of like went with that lo-fi aesthetic instead of like complaining about it, right? Yeah.
Yeah. So go ahead, Dan.
How long are you in town for?
I'm only here till Monday, tomorrow. So I got in on Friday. I had a screening on Saturday. And then I went to the Korean spa this morning. And I got exfoliated. So
Nice. Oh, I should do that. Which Korean is it in K-Town or?
yeah, I went to Wee Spa.
Okay.
Oh,
It's
yeah.
really good. Yeah.
You recommend it? You liked it?
Yeah, it's good. It's great.
All right. Hey, sponsor us, We Spa.
Yeah, there's some really strong Korean ladies there who scrub you really hard.
Okay.
And I got a massage too, so that's
You have a
really
coupon? I might go.
Good. No, no coupon. But it's not that. I mean, it's the same price as the other ones. I guess
Okay.
it was on Conan O'Brien.
Oh, is that the one with Steven Yeun? Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, is it? Yeah.
Yeah.
But it's still, reasonably priced. I mean, it's the same price as the other ones.
Yeah. So, speaking of Koreans, when did this K-pop sort of one reason I wanted to get together because I read one of your most recent posts before the Ip Man one.
Right.
Was about compressed modernity, about stars falling from the sky,
Right,
Soe
right.
and Guhara, the suicides that happened last year, late last year, so a few months ago. And I noticed from a previous post that it was CN Blue that kind of sparked your interest in K-pop.
Yeah,
Back
yeah,
in
yeah,
2016, 17, I guess.
I want to
Yeah,
say
16.
2015 now.
2015,
It was a while ago.
yeah.
Okay, so this is actually also tied into Love Boat, weirdly enough.
Oh, weird. Okay.
Because so I got this Fulbright fellowship to go to Taiwan and shoot the film in 2016 of the summer, and that means you could bring your whole family. So I brought my husband
dope.
and my 2 kids, who were at that time teenagers, and we wanted to kind of brush up on our Mandarin, right?
Yeah.
And so I said, okay, let's find some dramas, like Taiwanese dramas to watch. And so my kid's looking around, and instead of Taiwanese dramas, she came across like these Korean dramas that she really wanted to watch. And I said, no, Mandarin. We got to fight like Mandarin. And she said, no, these are better.
Chincha? Yeah.
So
really
she started watching these. We watched a couple of them. And then there was one called You're Beautiful, which is like from 2009 or something, old. And one of the people in it was Zhang Yanhua, who's the leader of CN Blue. And so, then I sort of thought, okay, who's this person?
Who's this beautiful man? Yeah. Let's be real. Yeah.
Who's this talented actor? Who's also really good looking. And so then I started, looking on, what you do. You go on like YouTube and you find who these people are, and started listening to their tunes. And I just really like them because they're like a rock band. They're not really like a typical K-pop band. They don't dance. They don't play like EDM. And so for me, that was really interesting because I have to say, I don't really even like K-pop music that much. Like, I don't listen to K-pop. I mean, but I think it's a really interesting phenomenon, like culturally.
Culturally.
Yeah, except CN Blue. I do love CN Blue because they play rock music primarily. And they actually like play instruments and stuff. Because
Right.
when I always listened to like punk rock and new wave and
Okay.
power pop and stuff, and indie rock. So it just really fit into like the stuff that I'm interested in. Yeah. So that's how that was my gateway drug.
Your gateway drug, and
Yeah.
then one thing that you mentioned in that article about CN Blue was like, which was a fairly popular article I noticed. Yeah.
Yeah.
Was that
Once those fans find your posts online,
Yeah.
they share it with everybody, and then they all come and read
the
it.
fandom? Yeah, the CN
Yeah.
Blue fandom.
They're
yeah.
like voracious. They're crazy.
Is that even though it was kind of the gateway, you looked at other stuff and you were like, still not for me, kind of.
Well, I mean, like I said, the music itself is not really my cup of tea, but I am kind of really interested in like the cultural phenomena of
Right.
K-pop and just like Korean entertainment.
Sure.
And so
And you teach Asian American
I
studies.
teach Asian American studies, and so it's also kind of become relevant now because there's a lot of crossover, right? Like
Right.
BTS. BTS is like super popular in the West now.
Sure.
So, yeah. So, I mean, they're not Asian American per se, but Asian Americans listen to that stuff.
For sure. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I mean, also non-Asians, obviously.
Yeah,
as
yeah,
well. Yeah.
And I've always really liked Korean movies. I mean, Korean movies are like amazing. So
Right.
that predated me listening or paying attention to K-pop.
And then now with Oscar season and Parasite, possibly
Yeah.
getting the Best Picture nomination.
Right.
Like, I don't. By the time this comes out, it'll probably maybe it won. I don't know. Yeah,
I don't
we'll
know.
see.
It's
Yeah,
February. I want to say February 9th is the ceremony.
Okay. Yeah.
So I don't know when you're going to publish.
Probably like a month from now. So yeah.
Yeah. So we'll know.
Well, maybe we'll know.
Yeah.
So let's. I kind of want to deconstruct this phenomenon
Mhm.
and then maybe link it back to like your article. It's
Mhm.
like, so this idea. I think one thing that you just made me think of was like this connection between Asia and Asian American identity, right?
Yeah.
So the fact that Asian culture is cool now, or Korean culture,
Yeah.
a very specific version of Korean culture,
Yeah.
is cool now. It's also affecting certain aspects of Asian American identity, how you what
Yeah.
is considered beautiful.
Right.
Yeah. So I guess let's kind of like break that down. Like in the years that the Hallyu wave, which is the Korean pop wave, have you seen major influences and changes in Asian American aesthetic, Asian American identity? How has how do you think the K-pop wave has affected Asian American?
I mean, yeah, I only can judge from like what my students listen to and like, and so yeah, I mean, I think so. I think that for certain kind of people who really like that kind of music, pop music,
Sure.
then it's given them like an avenue to listen to pop music by Asian people. Like the hip hop people are not going to be so much into K-pop, so they don't care as much unless they like Korean hip hop, I guess. But yeah, of course, there's always some nice thing about like seeing people that look like you in media, right?
Sure. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, and I think it's actually kind of interesting because like BTS went on Saturday Night Live and sang in Korean.
Right.
I mean, wow, I can't even imagine that ever happening in my lifetime. So
right, and it's interesting that happened, and then obviously Parasite came later.
yeah,
And I don't know, there might be a connection, I think the whole Korean movie wave kind
Yeah.
of started with maybe Old Boy.
yeah,
Yeah, with
Yeah,
Park
yeah.
Chan-wook.
absolutely.
Yeah, but like I saw him, so yeah, BTS on Saturday Night Live.
Mhm.
And then freaking Bong Joon-ho,
Mhm.
the director of Parasite on Jimmy Kimmel, I believe, or like what it's like
He's been on one of those late night.
Yeah,
shows.
he was on the late. I was like,
Yeah,
wait a minute, this is weird. I've never seen a Korean director or Asian director with a translator.
with a translator not speaking English, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
It's so
It's
interesting. It's
amazing.
amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He's really cool too.
Yeah, he seems like a really
He's
down to
very
earth
funny.
dude.
Yeah.
Have you met him before?
No,
Yeah.
well, I wish.
Yeah.
But I mean, he doesn't like mince his words at all. So it's
Yeah,
really fun.
yeah. I met him at a screening of Snowpiercer,
Oh yeah.
and went in San Francisco 10 years ago or
Mm-hmm.
something. And to be honest, I'm not a huge Snowpiercer fan until
Mhm.
I saw it a second time. I liked it better the second
Yeah.
time, but it's still not one of my favorites of his.
Yeah.
But I saw him hey, yeah, let me get a pic. I talked to him a little bit. I think there was another translator there,
Yeah.
and then I think he mentioned something about class at the Q&A.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then in the second
That
screening,
makes
the more
sense.
recent one that is more fresh in my memory is he talked about how in Parasite class is vertical,
Mm-hmm. Right.
visually it's vertical.
Right. It's all that stairways.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and then in class and Snowpiercer, I don't know if you've seen it. It's
Horizontal.
horizontal.
Yep.
But it's still
Right.
It's still very spatially.
Yeah,
Visual.
still fucked up system.
Yeah. It's very smart. Yeah.
So I wonder if that kind of consciousness of we should be more, but now it's interesting because Asian Americans, we're in this weird space of wait, we're American too,
Yeah.
but we've never received that kind of access.
Yeah.
Whereas Asians
Yeah.
are getting that kind of access. I'm trying to think of exceptions, maybe.
Well, I mean,
yeah.
it's changing a little bit more now because of The Farewell, right?
The Farewell,
and
yeah.
Crazy Rich Asians, of course,
Of
right?
course, yeah.
And Fresh Off the Boat, right?
Yeah.
I mean, it's kind of all just kind of coming together. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I mean, you could make the simple argument that it's just because there's more Asians living in the U.S. now. I want to say it's almost 6% of the population now, whereas
Yeah.
back in 1970 it was 0.5%.
Which that's crazy. Yeah.
Yeah, so 10 times as many Asians living in the U.S. now as there was 30 or 40 years ago. So, yeah.
Yeah, and it's interesting because if you ask people what's the percentage of Asians in America,
Yeah.
they'll see some overstated percentage.
If they're living in California.
right.
If you're living in Ohio, maybe not.
Yeah, I see.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because in California, we're it's probably I don't know,
30%.
30%,
Yeah.
which is which is
That actually is probably true.
for California.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I do point out that for my students, I mean, when you think of Asians, you have to also think of not just East Asians. The South Asian community has totally exploded. I
Yeah.
mean, it's not just 10%, 10 times as many. It's 20 or 30 times as many people from India and Pakistan and Bangladesh. And the interesting thing about that too is that they're living in places that you wouldn't normally think of having Asian populations, like Memphis, Alabama, and Texas, And so it's not traditionally we think of Japanese, Chinese, Korean, Filipino, California, New York, right?
Yeah.
And maybe Vietnamese in Texas. But no.
Vietnamese in New Orleans.
Louisiana.
Yeah, somewhere.
Louisiana,
Yeah, certain little pockets. But now there's like South Asians all over this country.
Right. And then you have Aziz Ansari and then
Hassan.
Hassan Minhaj, I guess.
Yeah.
Uh,
And Mindy Kaling. Right?
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
And, so the representation's there.
Yeah.
So, yeah, sorry, did you have a question?
No.
Okay.
But I was just very.
I do whoops, are you
Well,
leaving?
I guess
I want to say something about that that's
go
kind of
ahead.
funny. This is my theory,
Yeah, sure.
a theory about why this is weird, but it's kind of like related to why Donald Trump is popular with some people, because they see that the demographics are changing, and it's never going back, and they're scared. It's like, oh my God, and it's like on the West Coast and on the East Coast, it's like I just was in dinner at San Gabriel Valley, and it's like, wow, there's nothing but Asian people here.
Right, yeah.
And it's cool to me, I mean, that's cool. Or, you go down to some other part of the neighborhood, it's like, oh, there's like the Guatemalan neighborhood, right? And all you have is Guatemalan food. And that's like all good for me. But, I mean, if you are used to thinking that America should only be white people, then you're freaking out. And it's like this older generation especially, I think they're just freaking out. It's like they're scared of like what is unknown to them. So, I mean, that I think contributes to this backlash against, immigrants or refugees or minorities or whatever you want to call people.
And I think Andrew Yang makes a good point that a lot of manufacturing jobs in those regions were lost because of automation.
Yep, and not because of immigrants.
Right,
Yeah.
but guess what? They think of immigrants because that's the easier choice.
Target.
Like the conceptual idea of automation is not like it's not as
Not a
mainstream
robot. Yeah.
until I think Yang Andrew's trying to push that forward as like, well, no, you just look at the numbers. Like,
Yeah, I mean, it's always easier to blame someone, like a person that is different than you than thinking of, okay, this is another theory that's like related to like capitalism. The rich people want you to blame the poor people and the immigrants so that you're not blaming them.
Right.
When it really is their fault.
Right. The people who are making the robots.
Right.
Or
and
making,
profiting off
Profiting,
of it.
yeah.
And like taking away your jobs. It's not these poor people who are coming from El Salvador.
Right, yeah.
It's like these billionaires who they're not sharing. They really need to learn to share.
So as far as like, that makes me think of going back to your article about the K-pop, the people that have passed recently.
Yeah.
There's 3 people. There was Sully in, I believe, October,
Guhara.
and then Guhara a month later.
Yeah.
And then there's Cha Ha, I believe.
Cha Eun-ha.
Yeah, Cha Eun-ha, yeah. And I mean, it's interesting because, sure, they were victims of a cyberbullying.
Mm-hmm.
They were victims of
Pressure.
social career
Yeah.
pressure. And what's interesting is that you mentioned not blaming Korean culture.
Yeah, I think it's really important because this idea that it's all kind of Orientalism in a way. It's like now it's framed as Korean culture is like brutal and unforgiving and savage and puts all this pressure on people, and that's not that different from back in the day when people would say, oh yeah, Chinese or whatever, or Asians are barbaric and subhuman. And so to me, it's just really narrow way of not looking at what really are the causes for a lot of people being under pressure, not just Korean people. I mean, I think and when that other post about Kim Jong-un, I said, they say, okay, well, Koreans work all these hours and they don't ever get a break. But I mean, I know a lot of guys who work in the tech industry who are sleeping under their desks because they're working 90 hours a week, right? So it's not like it's only isolated to Korea. Korea is not the only place that people are overworked. Korea is not the only place that people are cyberbullied. Korea is not the only place that people kill themselves because of their careers or because they're, because of misogyny.
But to play devil's advocate, they have one of the highest suicide rates for what is it, OD, like
an
industrialized nation.
Yeah, that's true.
And so I guess from what I hear, it's not like completely taking culture out of it, but like not putting that as the main focus.
Because I mean, there's like all these articles that are just about like literally the dark side of K-pop. You just Google that and you'll come up with like 30 articles, the dark side of K-pop. And I don't know. I mean, I don't want to do that whataboutism thing, but I mean, there are Western stars who are dead, who drank themselves to death. Maybe they're not quite as young, but actually some of them are. They were all in their 20s, right? Like Amy Winehouse.
Right.
Yeah. or Kurt Cobain. They were all like 27, right? That's the 27-year-old group, right?
The 27s,
The
yeah.
27s.
Jimi Hendrix,
Yeah, you know, yeah, and it goes back. And so, I mean, child stars are abused here in the U.S.
Right, and then there's the whole pedophile ring, but
Yeah.
Epstein and
Yeah.
and there was the sex ring from the Burning Sun, yeah. So,
although that wasn't really a sex ring, that was more like a
like
that was
prostitution, I think.
it was more like sharing videos of.
Oh,
yeah, I mean, it
sure.
wasn't good. It
That's
was
not
really
good,
definitely
yeah.
ugly. But that's also for the Burning Sun thing too. I mean, yeah, those guys were messed up, right? There was no excuse for what they did. But again, you know, it's more like toxic masculinity. It's not only just Korean dudes who do this, and again, like Epstein, right?
Yeah.
How much toxic masculinity do we have in the U.S.?
And
Our
I want
fucking president.
right, and I wonder about the ethnicity of those underage girls that Epstein violated, like
Well, yeah.
because human trafficking, like maybe some Asians,
Yep.
yeah, and there's some fetishization
Yeah.
going on.
Actually,
there
I
too.
think there was one woman. What was her name? Regina something? Eng, was it? She talked about how he targeted her because she was Asian.
Was
Yeah.
that Epstein or Weinstein?
Epstein? Oh, Weinstein. I'm sorry.
was
right. I'm
Weinstein.
sorry. Wrong guy.
Yeah, that's another.
Well, there's another one, right? Okay.
that
yeah.
was that was a Asian American woman.
Yeah,
or
Asian
Chinese.
American. Yeah.
She was targeted, and then
Yeah.
she tried to commit suicide a couple
Yeah.
times after the incident.
Yeah.
And because he pressed himself against her and said, "Hey, I want to be with an Asian," gross shit. Yeah. So,
I'm sorry.
because I've talked to some Koreans about this topic, and it's very interesting because they're fairly critical of Korean culture.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
Yeah. Women, like I talked to a Korean woman, and I mentioned Sully, and she basically said, like, yeah, in Korea, if you don't fall into a certain conformity,
Yeah.
they will like destroy you on the internet.
Yep.
They will just they'll like say all these super negative comments, and she, to be honest, doesn't see it's in the U.S. sure, and then, but like in her opinion, it's much worse in Korea.
I think it is. Yeah. I mean, it's definitely like pretty intense in Korea. But I mean, what I think part of it though, which I also talked about in that blog post, is this idea of what we call compressed modernity, right? So South Korea and a lot of other countries have industrialized at a really fast rate. Like when was the Korean War? 1950. So that's how many
Yeah.
years?
55, yeah.
55. So let's say maybe 60 years that they've modernized, and maybe even less.
And they were completely destroyed.
Yeah,
by, like,
totally
the U.S.
destroyed.
Yeah.
So just the stress of that happening has really made life hard. I mean, it seems like, oh man, everybody's like gotten to this really high level of income, but it's really hard culturally to shift from being more like, less developed country to this really highly industrialized country that's really competitive. So that's part of the problem. But on a broader sense, the other part of the problem is, capitalism, neoliberalism, right? Whatever you want to call it. This like hyper-competitive global economy that we live in. And what happened, this is specific to K-pop, I think, but other groups too, I think, is that K-pop has this really weird system. Well, not weird. They have this system where new groups or groups go onto these TV shows and compete against each other.
Yeah, like Music Box.
Music
and
show.
like, all those shows.
Inkigayo. Yeah. So they compete against each other, and one group wins and the other ones lose. And part of the way that they score this is by voting from fans.
Right.
So they either vote online or they have to tweet like a million times with the hashtag, or they have to do like 20 million views on YouTube.
And there is some
Yeah.
vote manipulation. There
There's
was
vote-
there was an issue with IZ one.
Oh
They're
yeah.
part of the Produce One.
Yeah.
Group.
Yeah,
So
there's a lot of that. Yeah.
So there was some vote manipulation there, but
Yeah.
supposedly, other than that, hopefully we don't know if that was just a rare case. Who knows? But it's a popularity.
I think it happens all the time.
Oh, you think so? Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's a popularity contest.
Yeah, it's a big popularity contest. So unfortunately, what happens is that these fan groups, these really intensely like devoted fan groups, they fight against each other. And so, let's say you're a fan of Sully, and then the other person is a fan of a group that is their rival, right?
Yeah.
And so what you do is you not only support your group, and you totally like attack the other group,
Okay.
Sully or whoever it might be.
Sure.
So that contributes to this like really hostile environment.
Right.
So, I mean, but that's also because K-pop has adopted this neoliberal competitive model where one group has to win and the other one has to lose. It's like this zero-sum game, right? So you can't have both groups coexisting and being like supportive. One has to lose and one has to win.
Can you break down real quick, like for people who don't understand the term neoliberal? Yeah.
Oh my God. Okay, that's a really complicated one. I'm not even sure myself, but, but basically, you know, what it is, you know, it's really, again, like it's a bottom line thing where everybody has to be either like on the top or the bottom, right? You
Okay,
can't have,
yeah.
There's no cooperation, there's no sharing. Individualism is really important.
So it's like a scarcity mindset.
Scarcity model, yeah. It's like you can't.
Like there's only enough for a few of us.
Right.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so that's what I see. That's one of the things that I saw. Even when I started paying attention to K-pop, that was one of the things that really bothered me about it. It's like, why do these guys have to like have this like Hunger Games thing where they're always like competing?
Well, because there's only three basically monopolies. There's JYP, YG Entertainment, and the or YG, and then the SM Entertainment.
Yeah.
And then there's some other smaller companies, but those are the
Yeah.
three big ones. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's gotten a lot worse, I think, with the internet voting. Because I want to say, like, maybe 5 or 10 years ago, it wasn't so much about competing against each other. Now it seems to be a lot about, like, who can get the most YouTube views.
Oh.
You know, it's not like, oh, yeah, this song is really great, it's a jam, right? It's like, no, we got 20 million views in 2 hours. So, I mean, a lot of times when you read these headlines on these various, you know, K-pop sites, it's like, wow, Blackpink, 400 million views for this song. It's like, okay, I mean, how do they get that? Who's streaming this? Like, 24 hours a day.
How many of those are robots, you know? Like
Or, yeah, I mean, is there any pleasure in listening to the song? Do you like it because you like the song, or you're just like mindlessly streaming? But anyway, so that was one thing that kind of really, like, I don't like about K-pop. And so I think that competitive atmosphere does contribute to people attacking people like Sully, you know, or Hara.
What I liked about your article was that it connected it, because I think you're right. The easy target is Koreans are that like this crazy over obsessive, mean people. Like that's the easy target. Kind of like when we talked about earlier, immigrants are an easy target.
Right.
So let's blame Korean culture.
Right.
Right. Which is like you said. I think I saw an article you cited. I was just like, whoa, yeah, they're pretty bashing Korean culture. So okay, sure, that's easy. But what I liked is this idea of, you know, compressed modernity, which I think came from a Korean.
It's a Korean theorist,
professor.
Yeah.
And it kind of put into context. Oh, so it's maybe not just Korean culture, but the specific circumstances that created Korea.
Yeah.
Modern Korea, because modern Korea is like, they called it like the Rising Dragon. One of the Rising
Four Dragons. Yeah.
So basically, it was bombed to shit by America, right? And you know, and then there's this trauma, this very deep trauma that people are still trying to get up.
Yeah, because the country's split,
and families, brothers,
they never
like
see each other.
They separated, and they didn't see each other until like maybe many years later, or never because they passed away. Yeah. So there's this deep trauma, but there was this desire to like this national pride of and rising from the ashes, like South Korea. Yeah, I think their economy, or if you want to use GDP, which is not the best marker, but like it's one of the markers we use, it just rose astronomically over the last few decades into a place of like, okay, you know, this we're a viable superpower. Or we're one of the big boys now,
right?
And this idea of soft power, right?
Yeah.
Like basically, like a lot of people may not understand that the government is pulling some of the strings of promoting certain groups over other groups, maybe to promote their kind of like pro-Korea agenda, you know?
Well, also, I mean, if you really want to talk about like global politics, South Korea is, you know, a client state or allied with the U.S., right? So back in the day, in the Cold War, after the Koreas were split, you know, the U.S. boosted up South Korea because it was against communism, which was North Korea.
Yeah.
So that was one of the ways that they used like these proxy states like South Korea, like Taiwan,
Yeah.
you know, to have outposts in Asia, military, cultural, political outposts in Asia.
Oh.
So South Korea is one of them. I mean, a lot of the South Korean economic development was supported by the U.S.
So then K-pop is kind of an offshoot of like, okay, that soft power that promote a little bit.
Yeah, I want to say
mean,
yeah.
Yeah,
I
or
mean-
like basically like how can we as a Korean, you know, like not me, but like how, speaking of Koreans, like if I was like, how can Korea basically spread its influence? And as we have seen, it's their cultural influence is crazy.
Yeah.
There's people in Argentina learning Korean, like because of
Right.
BTS,
Yep.
and, big hit entertainment.
Yeah, actually, I heard that the Korean language classes now are like still getting really popular.
It's super
and like
popular.
French is going down.
Right.
Korean and Chinese and like something else.
Yeah,
Maybe
Chinese Mandarin. Yeah.
So, but Korean is definitely rising, and like a lot of the European languages are
Right.
declining.
So this idea of like, okay, so Korea is this country of intense, rapid technological, economic, social change
Yep.
in a very short period of time. And it's interesting because human nature, from what I understand, has been fairly static, or human nature
Sure.
is fairly similar to what we had like 10,000 plus years
Yeah.
ago, right? We we eat, sleep, fuck, all that stuff, right? Yeah, so like, and we have these impulses, and as far our hardware, our human hardware, our biological systems, and so I think it's very interesting when we're in a world of like social media and a lot of where basically when we were bullied as a kid in our older generations, there'd be like a group of kids that might bully you. And there might be rumors spread around school. Now there's rumors spread around the world.
Yeah.
And those comments, like you might hear a snide remark or something, or you might get a letter in the mail. But now, guess what? You get 100,000 letters in the mail, like comments about saying, "Oh, why? Hey, Soli, how come you're not wearing a bra?
Right.
What's you doing?" Which she was very proud about.
Yeah.
The no bra movement, and I, in a way, like when I heard about Soli, like real talk, I had knew of FX, the group that she was in, because one of the members, I know Amber
She's
Liu,
Taiwanese.
she's Taiwanese American,
Right.
yeah,
And she's like kind of like
androgynous.
Yeah, she's dope.
She's super cool, and so I looked into Soli after she passed, and I looked into her. What was that sound? Oh,
That's my wife walking up the stairs.
Hi.
okay, hi. And I listened to her like single stuff, and I thought it was really it's good. It's like kind of dream pop ish, and from what I understand is like she was okay about women's rights. She's all about women's rights. So like abortion rights in Korea, like not being proud, like not to have to wear a bra.
Right.
And she got a lot of flack for that.
Yeah.
And then, she also was clinically depressed, from what I understand, from the articles. And she had been a star since she was like a kid, like a young age.
Yeah, I want to say like 12 or 14, maybe.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's sad because she's so young. She was 25,
Yeah.
and kind of like your article kind of put it into context. How do these individuals? Because I think as humans we want to live in a system that's humane.
Right.
But when we live in a system that is so hyper competitive, zero sum, and so like there's this idea of panopticon, right? Or whereas basically everything you do is being viewed or scrutinized. That's a lot of fucking pressure.
Yep.
That's a lot of pressure on the people. K-pop stars, stars here. Like you look at Kanye, he's kind of gone off the, he's doing some weird stuff. Yeah. And I would say it's part of this idea of fame and hyper scrutiny.
It's not fun being a celebrity.
Yeah.
Especially nowadays.
So it kind of helped me put into context. Oh, because think of it, like suicide. from what we understand, or it's like it's a very, very, very dark choice, and I don't think it should ever be normalized.
Yeah.
However, there are things like euthanasia when people are terminally ill.
Right.
And there's extreme cases where letting wanting to leave this plane, leave Earth and pass away may be a viable option. So I guess my question then is like, how can I guess because how can basically celebrity or K-pop stars kind of survive in this compressed modernity situation? Is there a solution to this?
I think that's a big question to ask Valerie.
Oh man, I don't know.
Her, like, provide a solution for that.
No, I mean, let's just talk about
it. Theory.
Oh,
Yeah.
well, I
She might have
mean, yeah. I mean, like I said,
because then guess what? Like, no, you're all gonna be fucking depressed. Get with it. You chose this life. Fuck it. You got that
it's your
sucks.
choice. Well, I mean, a lot of them don't really make a choice when they're grown-ups. Like, some of these kids start training when they're like 10, literally, I want to say, okay, I'm just gonna go back to Young because I know him from CN Blue, right? And so he has said he doesn't even like to go out of his apartment, like go out, hang out with friends or anything, because he's so worried something bad will happen.
Oh, jeez.
And he doesn't even say specifically what that bad thing is, but it's just like, it could be anything. It could be like doing, getting too drunk, or talking to the wrong person at somewhere.
Maybe a crazy fan.
Even just anything. So he is just like so careful that he is like become almost like a hermit, and I think that's like, you just have to do that, right? You just have to protect yourself. But I don't know. I mean, I don't know. That is a big question.
Yeah, we've seen that Amber. She's come back to the States where she's from, and now she's pursuing a more like independent career here.
Yeah.
And she mentioned on another podcast how like in Korea the system was like everything was planned out for you by the company.
Yeah, with the idols.
With the idols, yeah. Whereas in the U.S., like they'll ask you, okay, so how do you want to do this concert? How do you want? And then she's like, what? You're asking me? Yeah. Like, yeah. Like how do you want to present yourself?
I mean, the stakes are super high for these K-pop stars because, they, like you said, it's because they kind of become like this representative of Korea in the West or around the world,
sure,
right? Because it's like, it is a big thing with the government supporting the soft power thing, the Hallyu thing. And so they're really banking on these kids. I use that word because they are kids. Like Amber's like 26 and she's been in the business for 10 years.
That's crazy. Yeah.
She's been like professionally like active besides the part of the time when she was training. So I mean that could be like another like 3 to 5 years. So yeah, I mean when I read that I thought, oh man, she's been around for 10 years, but then how old is she? It's like, wait, that can't be right.
Yeah. They're starting as kids, literally.
Yeah. Because I mean I have a 16-year-old kid, and if she was out there like being a K-pop star now, I mean, wow, that would be.
She'd be like, hey mom, I want to be a K-pop star.
Well, I mean, she just like that. You when you're 16, that's a lot of pressure.
Right.
It's a lot of pressure, and these people are totally like exposed to the spotlight. But anyway, I don't know. I mean, it's really hard. I think, just like you said, getting back to the soft power ideas, they become like this commodity to be the representative or like the ambassadors, the cultural ambassadors from their country, right? And so if they fuck up, then they suffer because the government is trying to use them to promote, in this case, South Korea, right? So
there's like a lot of, that just makes me think of a lot of pressure, political pressure.
I think so, yeah.
And like presentation,
Yeah. So it's hard.
It's tough,
But they're doing it. I mean, like you said, Korean is very popular.
They're doing it.
BTS seems to have pushing that sort of like positive, love yourself kind of mentality, which is pretty good.
Yeah.
I mean, the Koreans have K-pop and the Japanese have anime and manga. I mean, as a way to influence the culture or actually spread the Japanese culture and spread the Korean culture. Do you think Chinese people and Taiwanese people have something similar?
Taiwan's food. Taiwan has food
They're
power.
Pushing that. And I know that Taiwan supposedly, like, the government is kind of trying to model like what South Korea did as far as like that soft power thing. So yeah, that's why all of a sudden you see like 86 degrees all over the place, right?
85 degrees. Yeah.
85 degrees. 86
Yeah.
degrees. Yeah.
That's the new
Yeah,
chain.
that's the sequel. Yeah. So or like like boba.
Boba is ridiculous.
Boba.
Yeah.
Yeah. Right. China was trying at some point to like get their movies.
I think they still are.
Yeah. But they're doing a really bad job, I think. They're kind of clumsy about that.
Yeah. But
So-
like Chinese, I mean, there's all these language institutes that are popping up.
The Confucius Institute is run by the government, but that's a different
Ooh, I mean,
thing. Yeah.
this podcast might just get banned in China, but
All
whatever.
right,
I mean, I don't think it's.
I don't think I can ever go back to China anyway at this point, so it's all right.
No, that's a good question, Dad. I do think China. I know Taiwan is definitely like pushing the food, and then JYP has a boy story. It's a Chinese boy group that like the average age is 12. Like
Ooh.
so like he's trying to make moves in China because he knows like that's a huge market.
Yeah, it's been a huge market for a while.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
But even like, Jay Chow was in like some American, was he in Green Hornet?
Yeah, he was
And
Green
what's that,
Hornet.
Catch Me If You Can, is that right?
yeah, the magician one.
Yeah, the magician
yeah.
one, so yeah, I mean, he's been trying to come
But
up.
I mean, with the Taiwanese and the food, that doesn't inspire people to learn Taiwanese or Chinese or Mandarin at all, do
Or
they?
like
Does it?
the traditional Mandarin.
They're not quite as successful, yeah.
Yeah, and also their cultural film market is like a lot of their talent because of this using the same language. They go to China to make money.
It's a huge
It's a
market.
huge market, and
Yeah.
a lot of money is
Yeah.
there.
But the Love Boat was that soft power thing from Taiwan.
There you go.
That was kind of like Hallyu, the Korean wave. That was a way that the government wanted to try to reach out to, I mean, specifically like Chinese and Taiwanese Americans, but, hopefully also spreading beyond that. And so, like, I talked about this, in the movie, one of the people who went on the trip when she was 16 was Judy Chu, who's now a congresswoman. Like, she represents the San Gabriel Valley. And I think that's one of the reasons why the Taiwan's government tried to find those kids from the Ivy League schools, because they were hoping that somebody like her would feel like positive about Taiwan, right? And so she is. I mean, she's like on the Taiwan caucus. She's met with the president. President of Taiwan. She's like really pro-Taiwan. And, she said before she went on the trip, she didn't even know anything about Taiwan. And she didn't
Right.
think being Chinese was like that useful at all.
Yeah.
So so I mean, the Love Boat was totally soft power, soft power.
And then Taiwan recently, they had elections not too long ago, and Tsai Ing-wen, who is she's kind of like the other opponent was more pro Beijing, and then this Tsai Ing-wen, she's more like I would say moderate slash.
She's
leaning towards independence, but she won't. They can't say the word, right? Just more like basically she will say Taiwan is Taiwan, China is China. That's as far as she can get, or she'll say. And what was I gonna say? Oh yeah,
I had something to say about that.
Yeah.
So Taiwan was the first Asian country to have LGBTQ marriage, right?
Sure, yeah.
To legalize that, and I don't think they were necessarily thinking of that as like this is a really good political move, but it has sort of highlighted that that Taiwan's more interested in like human rights, right? So some people are saying that Taiwan should try to push that, like we are the country that has human rights, especially in contrast to China, which is not the country that has human rights.
Right.
And so that's all these things are like people think about this stuff.
This made me just thinking about Taiwan and K-pop. You guys know Tsuyu?
Yes.
So
she's in
Tsuyu, she's in Twice.
Yeah.
There was a reality show back in 2016, where each member held a flag from their respective countries, because Twice is made of Japanese members, Korean members, and Tsuyu is Taiwanese. She's from Tainan, and she held up a flag of the Taiwanese
ROC,
flag,
yeah.
the ROC, the Republic of China, which is Taiwan, and there was like a huge blow up on Weibo, WeChat, whatever, and saying like, oh, how could she hold up that flag? She doesn't recognize Taiwan as part of China. And then so like people were boycotting twice, and they were saying, hey, and then I think the government didn't let them. Concerts were definitely canceled in China.
And she had to do this really scary apology.
That's apology.
I
can't.
I
watch that apology. I get fucking so angry.
It's like you feel like there's someone holding a gun, like just outside of the frame.
She says, 我知道就是只有一个中国 you know, there's only one China, you know, and then 我很对不起 blah blah blah. She's saying, I'm very sorry, I only recognize one China, I did not mean to offend anyone, and then bow. And she's like, when she does all this stuff, she's 16. She's 16 years old.
Yeah.
Can you imagine like all that crazy like?
Yeah.
Oh, you're the center of this.
Yeah.
Of a 50-year-old conflict, super tense conflict between Taiwan and China, and you're in a Korean company that's trying to make money off of China, and you're 16 years old.
Yeah, that just happened with another K-pop person, Siwon from Super Junior.
Oh.
So there's all these protests in Hong Kong, right? And people post on Twitter. And so I want to say he pushed the like button on a post on Twitter that said something positive about the Hong Kong protests. I mean, it might have not even been that. It might have been like, go Hong Kong. Something really innocuous, right? Totally attacked in China. Like, people were, like, burning his records, you know? It's, like, crazy. He had to apologize, like, 6 times.
That reminds me of the Japanese imperial flag. Stephen Yun liked a picture of his friend wearing the Japanese imperial flag as a costume as a kid. And Korean people saw that he liked it and just, like, totally, like, you know, like, said, Stephen Yun, he's a race traitor. How dare he like the Japanese imperial flag, which is essentially the swastika of that of World War II, right?
Yeah.
So his initial response was like, "Man, I can't believe it. We live in a day and age where like you like something and like people will trash you." Like that was like his initial response. Then he deleted that, and then he came out with a more thoughtful response saying, I thought about it and I realized, yeah, there's a very deep, painful history between, you know, Korea and Japan, and something I wish I want to recognize. And
yeah.
And then and Tiffany Young from Girls' Generation has SNSD 少女时代 posted a picture of her with like the Japanese imperial flag, and because of that, she was kicked off the show. Was it Slam Dunk, Sisters Slam Dunk, yeah, which is one of my favorite reality shows.
I think she actually moved to the U.S. after that.
Oh, really?
I think so, because she's from here, I think she lives in L.A. I want to say that's...
Yeah, she's in L.A. now. I believe. She's, or like L.A. or New York. I think L.A.,
yeah.
She's pushing the whole Asia... she's pushing for the American market.
Yeah.
So I think these are interesting. These are, I think, good examples of this kind of compressed modernity. Like, basically, as a public figure, there are certain rights you no longer have. Right? Is that fair to say? Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I think that's true. You know, I mean, it seems if you follow like Asian countries, then it seems really apparent that's happening there. But it happens here too. You know, I mean, people totally are like slamming people on Twitter all the time.
Oh,
like,
for sure.
Cancel culture, right?
Oh yeah, cancel
culture is crazy. It's just like, wow. I mean, just like rumors pop up, and then like a million people all of a sudden, like you said, are just like totally dissing you, right?
But one thing that's specific to Korean stuff is like, Dan, have you heard of this? Like no dating clauses?
No.
Like, so you want to explain real like?
Yeah, some of these K-pop groups when the kids sign their contracts, they have a clause that says they can't date, they can't publicly date other people, which of course they do. I mean, they're all like having sex with each other. Right. But you can't go in public, right? So it's like you can't be like Taylor Swift talking about going out with what's his name, Harry Styles. Is that who she went out with? Whoever the fuck she went out with.
I don't follow.
Like
that,
she writes songs about her breakups and shit. So yeah, I mean that's written into the contracts because the idols are supposed to be like. I mean, the word idol should just give you a suggestion of like what kind of image they're supposed to have, right? They're supposed to be like these perfect human beings. And so one of the perfect things you do is you do not date because you're supposed to be a fantasy object that's available for your fans to pretend like they're your boyfriend or girlfriend.
Right.
And I think it's doubly hard for women because they have to be that plus pure as an angel or like the virgin, like kind of sort of symbolism, right? Yeah. But they could be the bad girl, but like
not too much,
not too bad,
Yeah. I always thought that was kind of a funny paradox because like some of the choreography is like
super sexualized,
super sexy.
Yeah, for sure.
It's like what's going on here? I mean,
Yeah, oh, for sure. Like Blackpink, like I don't need a boy, I need a man, and they get, get down on their knees. Yeah, or not,
Yeah, I mean, there's exceptions. One of my favorite music videos is Abracadabra by Brown Eyed Girls.
Oh, okay, that's an older one.
But it's just so super sexy and hot, and it's just like. Really cool. So look that one up if you don't know that one. Abracadabra.
That's one of their famous ones. Yeah.
Yeah, it's like queer. It's like sexy. It's like got all kinds of like really cool power structure stuff, dynamics. Yeah, and so I don't know. I mean, like I said, I haven't really been following a lot of this stuff for like years and years and years. But it seems to me that it's gotten a little bit, it's gotten a little stricter. Like they're really trying to not. They don't have that much of that adult perspective on sexuality that they might have had in the past. And also I want to say, and again, this is a giant generalization, but, like some of the older groups, like second generation groups like TVXQ, I can't remember the Chinese name is, DBSK, they were allowed to become older, right? They were allowed to become more like manly and not quite so boy-like. And so now there's really this really strong emphasis on these guys trying to stay as young-looking as possible. And it's this weird youth culture. And, but again, that's not limited to Korea, right? It's like the younger, the newer, the better. So
it does seem plastic surgery seems a little bit more normalized.
There's a lot of plastic,
in Korean culture. Yeah.
Sure.
And there's people who fly to Korea for plastic surgery. Yeah.
I just saw something interesting though that apparently in Silicon Valley, it's a thing now for like dudes to get plastic surgery.
Yeah, like Botox shots. Yeah.
Yeah, and nose jobs and stuff. So.
Yeah, it's because it's like you said, like it's hyper competitive industry, like tech. Yeah.
Yeah.
So like to be younger. Good. Yeah.
Yep.
Like, oh, you're a 38-year-old programmer. Why would I hire you if I could get this 21-year-old guy straight out of whatever Harvard
Total
or
ageism.
MIT, whatever? Yeah.
So much ageism. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, and they're cheaper too.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
So I mean, that's where like this idea of global neoliberalism kind of fucking shit up all the time, ruining your life, because we're all just like trying to get our piece of this increasingly shrinking pie. Or what's perceived as an increasingly shrinking pie, right?
Yeah.
It's like there's not enough to go around. We got to hoard. We got to be a billionaire, and billionaires are not going to share their stuff with anybody. So, like, and then we kind of like idolize these billionaires. Like, oh yeah, he's got like he makes like $10,000 a second or $100,000
from interest and some
right.
shit.
And it's like, man, that's like, why do we like these people? Why are we making these people like to be heroic? So,
are your kids into K-pop?
No, my younger daughter really likes Travis Scott.
Yeah.
And like yeah. And then the older one, I mean, they actually both really like Taylor Swift and stuff like that. So, yeah. And Ariana Grande, they're into that.
Okay. Sorry, go ahead, Dad.
Would you let your kids go to Love Boat?
Oh, get back to Love Boat. I would let them go to Love Boat. They don't want to go though, because they were there in Taiwan when we were shooting in the summer of 2016, and it was super hot, and they were not into it. Yeah. So I mean, I try to convince them. Like, there's other programs that they have that are not exactly Love Boat. Like one of them is teaching English out in the countryside in Taiwan. I said, you should do that to my daughter because she likes teaching. She's like, no, it's too hot. I don't want to do that.
And like, Are they both fairly comfortable with their Asian American identity, you think, or?
I think so. Yeah. I mean, they're Hapa, so they kind of like go both ways. But like the younger one is really active in the Hapa club at school.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Hapa and what?
Oh, like half Asian and half something else.
Okay. Okay.
And do you find like when you're doing like Asian American studies and you have like kids from like all over the United States, do you find that there's like a different versions of Asian Americans? I mean, the value system is a little bit different, right? Like, I,
Mhm.
from my personal experience, I think Northern California Asian Americans and especially Chinese Americans are a little bit different than the ones in Southern California.
That's what I'm told. Yeah, sure. I'm not sure exactly how, but I mean, in the Bay, there's a lot of Filipino kids.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
Filipino
Filipino Vietnamese.
Vietnamese, yeah, a lot of Filipino Vietnamese. Um, but I mean, it depends on like what school too. Like I know like a friend of mine teaches at San Diego State, and he said, yeah, most of the kids are Filipino Vietnamese, but that at UC San Diego, they're like Chinese, Korean, Taiwanese. So,
Yeah.
and I mean, that's partially like an economic thing too. Like,
Mm.
like these newer immigrants and their kids are gonna be able to either afford to get to UCs, so they go to state schools. Yeah.
Cool. So, let's see. We're going on an hour and 15. So one thing
Yeah.
I just wanted to talk about was this. One thing I don't know. It might be like it's kind of a certain opinion about people taking their own life. So sorry, dark turn. So Anthony Bourdain and Kate Spade,
Right.
they passed not too long ago, a few years ago, and it was last year I want to say, or yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, and you know what it's interesting, like the way that this is reporting, and just so you know, like we'll have. I think I'm going to put some resources for anyone that is having dark thoughts or anyone who is thinking about certain things. That I think what I've read about reporting or talking about these subjects is that don't try not to have like the word suicide in the headline, because that actually causes people to actually
Like
have ideation.
triggering.
Ideation. They have ideas about it, and also don't say the place and the method, because
Right.
that it actually because of Bourdain and Spade, like there was a slight spike in suicides after the reporting, because there's
It's paying attention.
this
to
paying attention, and then I read a post from David Cho. He's an artist. He worked in San Jose for a while, and he's the Facebook artist, I guess, is what he's most famous for. And he was close with Anthony Bourdain, and he wrote a post, and it's super. It's an interesting take, and in some ways, I'll be honest, like I see his point, but basically he's saying, I know that the glass on the Bellagio penthouse, one of those hotels, is you can't break it, because I tried jumping through that glass. And he says that suicide, taking your own life, is it's a weak choice. It's not romantic. It shouldn't be glorified. He thinks it's very, he thinks it's actually, it shouldn't be romanticized. That he hates Bourdain for taking his own life.
Oh.
He hates Bourdain for taking his own life. Bourdain told him like a month or so before, like, yeah, he's doing well, and he hated him for like hiding behind a mask, And I get where that anger comes from. It does seem to fall in this category of victim blaming a little bit, because one thing that David Foster Wallace, he said, like, the choice of suicide is kind of like choosing between jumping out of a burning building. It's like either you're gonna get burned alive from this, slowly burned alive from like this pain that's aching and eating you alive. There was the shiny guy who committed suicide. He took his own life, 2017. He had he's a I think Jung. I remember
The Shining guy.
Shiny.
Oh, Shiny. Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Kim Jong Un.
Yeah. So he was one of the first.
Yeah.
That was 2017. Yeah, and he had left a note about like how this depression was eating him up inside, and he lost. So he did that. So what I get from it is like, sure, they're victims in a way. at the same time, I'm like, yeah, I don't know. I can't really judge because I don't know what we're trying to conceptualize it, give some context to it, but and like modernity and political pressure and all that. But the actual choice to actually do it, you know, and the pain that they're feeling, it's a very personal choice. It's a very painful thing. I can only imagine. Dan and I have talked about this, because I have my own depressive episodes, and so I can empathize in a way, but I can't empathize to that point of that choice yet. Yeah.
I mean, I think that part of the problem is there's just like a mental health stigma, right? It's
Sure.
like people, you're not supposed to have any weaknesses.
Yeah.
You're not supposed to be depressed, and yeah, that's really common. It's like people don't know how to acknowledge mental illness.
Right.
And they make it a bad thing if you say you are depressed, you know,
Right.
or sad. So, which is kind of crazy because, like, if you break your arm, right, you're not going to say, "Oh no, my arm's not broken,"
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
It's just a stigma. But if you're emotionally like suffering, a lot of people say, "No problem, nothing wrong,"
Right.
and then then they don't have any coping mechanisms. So,
And I'm gonna say it, and I think it's suicide selfish. It's selfish thing because you're suffering from pain, and then you take it, but then it causes a lot of trauma and pain to people around you, and to if you have fans, thousands of fans, and in some ways, let's be real, it may influence some ideation in some of those fans or depression in some of those fans.
yeah, but I mean, I don't think it's necessarily like you can help it. You know what I mean? It's like it just becomes so overwhelming that there's no way you can see any other option. As
Right.
far as from what I've read about it and
Yeah.
what I've heard, it's like you're just like so like in horrible pain that you can't think of anything except just how to stop it in the best way you can.
Right, and
So I mean, and maybe you're not thinking rationally, like how.
No, you're not thinking rationally. Yeah,
obviously,
yeah.
But and you know, I mean, a lot of people think of it as just like self-preservation. It's like, what can I do to like make it better?
Dan, any thoughts on that, or is that's too dark?
I mean, it's just, no thoughts really. Never
Yeah,
really
I
think
mean, I
about
don't
it.
feel like I like can really speak authoritatively on that.
Yeah.
So yeah,
I just think, I have empathy for them. I feel terribly sad for what their choice or what they felt was their choice. You know that.
Yeah.
And right now we're trying to break down like some of the pressures that push them to that
Yeah.
choice, which I think is great. It's like it helps us. We're kind of like scientists trying to, how can we like be better people, and also understanding that people who are public figures are humans as well. The mental health stigma. I think, what was it? Yeah, I do think that it has led to more conversations about mental health. That's I think a plus about even with Bourdain happening and Kate Spade, and then with these recent ones with Guhara, I do think it has pushed that conversation in, particularly in K-pop entertainment, like mental health. But I think at large, like maybe we do have to look at mental health in like how can we survive as these humans in this kind of machine,
Well, okay. So you know that song I sent you, right? Jellyfish.
Sea and Blue.
Yeah. I mean,
it's depressing lyrics. Yeah.
It's totally, to me, is really great because it does express that like ambiguity where you want to like. I mean, if you're an artist, right, you want to make art, right? You want to create stuff, and you see that you have the possibility of doing that, right? You can make like this beautiful art, but at the same time, there's all these prices you have to pay. Right. And part of the price is maybe you lose your like integrity, or you're like get all this pressure, or you get. It's like what is it they say? It's like these shining things that are hiding poison.
Right,
these
right,
beautiful
right.
things that you think you can achieve that are also super dangerous.
When did he write that? It was a more recent one, or
He
was
wrote
that after
that-
the suicide? Or
No,
after?
so Young Wall wrote that. I don't know when he wrote it, but he recorded it this past summer.
Oh.
Last 2 summers ago, and he had at that time gone through a couple really huge scandals in Korea
Oh,
that
right.
both of which he was proven innocent for, but nonetheless he like got shit on.
Yeah,
Like,
of
totally
course.
dragged.
It's like once you get accused, you're like, you
Yeah,
get shitted
and
on.
so
Yeah.
he's talking about this idea because he's super popular, right? Super successful. And so he's saying, well, I can do all these great things. I can be super successful and popular. But at the same time, it's like, I got to watch out because this is also really dangerous. Because it's going to like wreck me, and it's going to wreck my family, and it's going to wreck my friends, and it's going to wreck my integrity.
Right.
And so that's what's really interesting about that song is that it really kind of expresses that in a really cool way.
Yeah.
It's like, you think that you have a lot of really good intentions, but you're kind of seduced along the way by a lot of things that are not so positive. And then also people are like shady. You got these shady people you're dealing with.
Yeah.
So you have to deal with the shady people. So it's like all these landmines, And so you say, why do these people? If it's one of the criticisms I've heard is like, if people don't want to be entertainers. If they want to be entertainers, they should know that this is part of the life, is they have to deal with all this criticism and all this stuff. But again, if you're 12 years old and someone says to you, hey, you can be a superstar.
Yeah.
You
make
can-
lots of money.
You can make a lot of money and you get to dance and sing. And
Which is kind of like not true if you look at all the hours they spend.
yeah.
Like,
And-
but
you're 12.
You're 12, yeah.
You're 12, you're 14, whatever. And you say, okay, yeah, that sounds really cool. I'll do that. And then, you're locked in this life down the line, and it's like all of a sudden, whoa, wait a sec, this is not what I signed up for.
Right.
And so, yeah, it's really hard. It's a really, really hard thing because you think your life will be perfect, and it's not. And I think that's also one of the main things too, is you think your life will be better once you're rich and famous.
Yeah,
and it's not. And
I think that speaks to a bigger thing, not just to Korea, but this kind of obsession of comparing, like, they're happy, they're super famous,
Yeah.
they have 1 million, over 10 million followers.
Yeah.
If I get that, maybe I'll be happy,
Yeah.
or something like that. And K-pop they have it down to a very nice aesthetic and music, and this idea of beauty that's like seems super hard to reach, if not impossible for some people. Like, but at the same time, like they have some fire songs, like they have some good, they have some some bangers.
But
And-
you guys live in LA, right?
Yeah,
So
yeah.
occasionally you run across like regular people walking around who are like actors and famous people, right?
Sure,
and they don't have
yeah.
any makeup on and stuff. And just think, if you want to go to like the store and buy something, and you don't have to put on your face, you don't have to put on makeup, you don't have to put on fancy clothes, you just go to the store, right? But if they go to the store and they don't have their makeup on, and then all of a sudden like someone from like some tabloid sees
Paparazzi,
them, like
yeah.
TMZ or something, and they take a picture of them, then it's like, it becomes like this big old headline, and it blows up, and it's like, man, look how ugly this person is without their makeup.
Right, yeah,
Look how
yeah.
fat they are. Look how slobby they are. So, the pressures of being a famous person, it's not so good. And I'm not saying it's like worse than being a coal miner or, or the mailman, but it's not,
It's a different set of pressures.
It's a different set of pressures.
Yeah.
So, I try to be a little sympathetic with rich people or famous people. Well, not rich people, but famous, but famous people if I can. Because, some of their lives are not happy.
Yeah.
But again, some of their lives are super happy, and maybe they're just lying and they pretend that they're not. I don't
No,
know.
I do think that there are certain people who balance it. There's like Tableau from Epic High. He mentioned suffering. He graduated from Stanford.
Yeah,
He's a
he had it
Korean
really
American.
hard.
And like people were like, oh, there was like a Stanford gate. Like, hey, I want to see if you really graduate from Stanford. They were like,
That was a big deal. He got totally dragged. And he had literally really bad mental problems.
Yeah, he has
He was
depression.
super depressed.
But it seems that he's come out the other side and been he recognizes like, hey, maybe I'll always have a little bit of depression, but at least I have some perspective about it, or and one of the comments I see is like two types of comments I see is like, oh, I'm 16, I'm looking at this, what am I doing with my life? Or I'm 15, look at this person super famous, or I'm 20, what am I doing with my life? And I think I would say, like, you know what? You don't see the sacrifices these people have made, and the pressures, or the issues, the dieting, the
Yeah.
constant like weight management or like belittling from certain managers. So I would say like, yeah, for those young people who idolize these idols, maybe there's some costs that you don't see, and
Yeah.
that maybe it's not as glamorous as you think. And another comment I commonly see is like for these people who have passed recently, it's like, oh, I hope you're in a better place and stuff like that, which is, I think it's a nice thought. But I think there's a danger for me personally, because I'm more on the agnostic side, is that maybe it's just nothing.
There's no afterlife.
Yeah, maybe
Yeah.
that choice of nothingness, abyss, was in their mind, I would say in a faulty way, because they were not in the right mind state, better than the pain they were enduring. And I want to say, like, I don't think suicide is ever a normalized option. Is ever a good option unless you are suffering from some very severe terminal illness or some. If you're, but the thing is, like, if we say that depression is an illness, like, yeah, they were in tremendous pain, and the fact of like choosing nothingness or abyss, because that idea, like, oh, there's a better place, I don't think that should ever be a reason for kind of making that's the most permanent of choices.
So you don't think people are going up to heaven with Jesus
with
or
the
77 virgins?
Yeah, I mean, here's what I believe: there may be some sort of energy, something that exists afterwards. But think about this: everything that you've experienced in this life, in this plane of existence, all the happiness, all the things that you are, your value system, what you hold dear. Whatever plane of existence exists after this, there's that stuff does not make any sense.
So we're getting some like theoretical shit here that I don't even know how I can comment on that. So I'm just gonna let that be. All right.
That's my shit. I'm trying to get out
All
there.
right.
Yeah.
That's good.
But okay. Anyways, let's wrap it up. We're getting about an hour and a half. Dan, any last thoughts? Yeah.
Well, I don't know. Yeah. What?
No, not on this topic.
Yeah,
not on this
yeah.
specific topic.
Yeah. So Val, any last topics? Maybe, I don't know, about K-pop, about your movie, about Asian American identity. I mean, anything you want to talk about? Anything you want to plug? Yeah.
Oh well, I mean, you definitely need to go see my movie.
Yeah, check out her movie.
Yeah. So the website is www.loveboattaiwan. Oh no, Loveboat Taiwan. Oh shit, what is it? Loveboat.
Where's the jacket? Yeah.
Loveboat .com. Loveboat
What is it?
Taiwan.com.
So
You'll
check-
have like a little.
Yeah,
right?
well, we have a link below, or you just Google Valerie Loveboat. It's gonna
Taiwan.
pop up. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I watch it. Great film. I think you did a good job.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Kind of tying these things of like soft power, as well as like also the personal element of like being a kid and finding love. Maybe
Yeah.
not, but yeah. And I thought it was very balanced for you. Yeah.
Do you have an
Aw,
idea of
thank you.
what you're gonna film next?
You know, I mean, I tell people that I like am still in recovery from the crowdfunding trauma. So James knows what I'm talking
Yeah, I
about.
know. I feel you.
So I don't know. I mean, I'm just kind of like letting this screen for a while, because I mean, it's fun. It's really fun to go show it in festivals and so
Yeah.
forth, because a lot of people who can't come to the screening went on the trip, and so they're super into it.
Yeah.
So it's like
Okay.
these impromptu reunions every time.
Oh.
And then they all come up and talk to me and tell me about like their little adventures on the Love Boat and who they married and who they
Oh,
slept
wow.
with. It's like, oh, thank you, thanks for sharing. So
Yeah.
Fair
so
enough.
It's an interesting cultural phenomenon. Do you think that in some way, I wonder what kind of landmarks, like kind of like cultural landmarks of connecting with Asia we have now, because the Love Boat is not in the state that it used to be. So I'm trying to, like, I guess Korea has a similar program.
Yeah.
Yonsei.
I don't know if that exists anymore, does it?
I don't know, but I
Yeah.
know that the people who go, they actually make lifelong friendships. I know
Yeah.
of, like, a
Oh.
couple people who like stay in touch and
Yeah, I
Or
mean,
really
I
different.
didn't myself, but a lot of people who went on Love Boat still hang out.
Oh, cool. Yeah.
Or they get married, you know.
I guess I guess maybe the miniature version where you don't have to go all the way to Taiwan is kind of like kind of these Asian American clubs and of like connecting with other Asian Americans. And I do think we're in this. I think we're in the stage now where like a friend was telling me how she saw some, I think her friend's kid or something was like brought like a rice ball to school, and like all the kids were like, "Oh, let me try that. I want to see that." Right?
Yeah.
Like kind of like the stinky lunch like
Right.
genre. Like, but that's kind of like the trauma a lot of Asian Americans grew up with is like, oh, you have a stinky lunch, you dirty Asian, right?
Well, actually, that's very true because my kids had that kind of same thing when they were in elementary school. They went to a Spanish immersion school, so a lot of kids were Latino, right?
Okay.
And one of the favorite things that they would bring in their lunchbox were those little crispy seaweed sheets.
Yeah,
like,
those are great.
all the kids loved them. And it's like, wow, that is so cool. Because, back in the day, like, I had that horrible, stinky lunchbox experience, and I was totally traumatized. But now it's, like, so cool to have, like, the seaweed.
Right, yeah.
So, I mean, I want to say there's, like, some connection here to BTS.
Maybe, yeah. And then...
Which is cool. I mean, not only BTS, but just,
And they're huge in Spanish-speaking countries.
Oh,
I don't know why.
Yeah.
Like, freaking South America, Mexico love them.
They love K-pop,
They
yeah.
love K-pop,
Yeah. Because, I think... in my most optimistic time, I think that maybe because we're getting more tolerant and more interested in other cultures in this country especially, and not thinking we only have to be one way, right? Only have to be like European-centric.
Sure.
We can speak different languages, we can eat like seaweed, we can listen to music from Asia, we can go, Bong Joon-ho can get nominated and win the Best Picture award, which he's going to do.
We'll see when this airs, but
we're all going to learn to read subtitles.
Yeah, the 1 inch barrier. It's not a barrier. Yeah, it's not a barrier.
Yep,
yeah,
and
yeah.
I think that part of it is because there's so many immigrants coming in this country. So go immigrants.
Yes. Yeah. Cool. So we wrapped it up with a language corner. That's our last piece of the episode. I have one I'll start it off with.
Uh-oh.
Basically, language corner. So one I have is called 师生饭 or 杀生盘. 杀生盘 means basically in English we would like say a stan, which is like stalker plus fan. So stan. It literally means in Chinese, like the Hanja or the Chinese characters for it would be 师生, which means private life, and then 饭, which is just they just use the word fan and they use a Chinese character 师生 fan, which literally means private life fan. Or in Hangul it'd be 사생 판. I don't speak Korean, but I think that's how you pronounce it. But basically, it's a person who's a fan of a idol, or it's specific to K-pop, where someone is interested in a artist's life, private life. So there's an incident for BTS where like fans would figure out their plane itinerary.
Yeah, that's current. That's common on all of the idols.
Yeah,
like they sell them on the internet.
So they find out when an idol or like a specific singer is going on a plane for a tour, and then the fan would buy a ticket next to that singer.
They do that. I've heard that.
And there's a lot of...
But they actually go to their houses sometimes.
Yeah.
There's incidents where they follow them into their houses or hide in their closets and shit.
And for the boy groups, I think it's like the female fans are kind of on the that seems that way.
I don't know which group it was. One fan sent a love letter that was written in her menstrual blood.
Yeah.
I want to say it's either Super Junior or TV.
I want to say it was, I think...
EXO?
I think it was EXO.
Maybe EXO.
I think I just read that.
Are we going to look it up? Okay. Yeah.
Oops. Oh, wait. I think... Yeah, anyways. It's some weird stuff. Like there was one where... I think it was EXO... they had a van. The fans had rented a van that was identical to the group's band, the group's van. So they were trying to kidnap the group, That was for let's see, I want to say which group was that. Oh, there's like BTS airport grab. Like they were trying to. Oh no, that's a different one. Let's see.
Well, if we get the idea that there are many of these incidences that happen.
Yeah, XO was attempted kidnapping, and then there was the blood one. It's,
there it is. Oh, 2 p.m.
2 p.m.
Okay,
Yeah.
Tachyon. Yeah. I think I want to say the people who hid in the closet were seeing blue. They were in their closet in their house, and they popped out like these two balls.
Do you think that all these issues with the K-pop scene and the pressures and all that is real estate related? Because where are they going to go? It's only Seoul, South Korea. Whereas like the US has like LA, New York, you can like go live in San Francisco. Where Korea is like South Korea, the main city is like the main city. There's like nowhere else to go.
Yeah, well, and there's this. The thing is, like, no, there's like groups like BTS. They're so huge that these kind of things happen in different countries, though, too. Like in
Right.
Indonesia, like
Yeah.
there were fans like literally grabbing them and trying to like.
But that happens all.
That happens, like,
to all
everywhere,
that happens
yeah.
to all the groups. It's not just BTS.
Right, and it happens
It
to
totally
like
happens to everybody.
Justin
And it
Bieber too,
happens
I
to-
guess.
Yeah, but I mean, like there's been a lot. I mean, this is happening for years and years.
Right, but it's just like I don't know. Yeah, I gotta say like the Sasang thing is like this is a story like they'll try to buy a house next to that stars like where do you have the money and where do you have the time to like invest in like property next to your star?
But
Like,
wasn't I mean, doesn't this like happen? Like there was. It seems like I'm going to say I don't know who it was recently. There was somebody. It wasn't Taylor Swift. It was somebody like that where they threw some dude in jail for like breaking into their house.
right? Okay.
Who
Yeah.
was that? Fuck.
There are a lot of those.
Yeah.
incidences.
Okay, I guess
Yeah.
so. The point you're making is that it's not isolated just to Korea, and we shouldn't just blame.
Well,
Korea.
no, I mean I think it definitely happens a lot in Korea, but it's not only
Yeah.
Korea. Yeah.
I would say like.
So
mean,
when you say like it happens a lot in Korea, I mean, it goes back to my question: is it real estate related? It's like they have like that one major city versus like the U.S. has several major cities where there are stars and
What do you mean real
like-
estate related? I'm not-
geography, maybe geography related, because it's like what I mean by that is like South Korea is like just basically Seoul is their main city.
Well,
right?
there's Busan,
Yeah.
which is
But-
like another major city.
Yeah.
But I mean, how many people are in South Korea, in Seoul?
I mean, like
Versus-
that's where I guess what you're saying. That's where all the major companies are, right? And then that's
Yeah,
where they all
it's
have to.
focused.
So it's kind of like that's their LA, that's their Hollywood, but like
And it's in a smaller like geography, right?
yeah. Okay, yeah. So I guess your argument you're saying is like, oh, it's easier access to these celebrities, right?
Yeah,
Because-
because you can actually see them more often. Whereas, like, if you are a fan of Justin Bieber, you have to be closer to LA. You have to be in Calabasas.
Right.
Is that where he lives?
Well, I think
Somewhere.
Kanye,
You're gonna
he has
stalk
like
him.
he's got some property and doing stuff out there. Anyways, any language corner, Dan, that you have?
No, not
No.
today.
Yeah, any phrase or basically it's like a cultural phrase from either a language you're learning so I use a Korean word.
Right.
But yeah, any term like are you learning Mandarin right now?
You know,
What-
I mean,
what are you
I've
learning?
been learning Mandarin for like 8 years, but I'm really terrible at it. But there was one term I did learn when I was shooting La Boat, which I thought was really cool, and I was going to name my production company this. And it's Local Snake. Have you ever heard this term, Local Snake? I have the character somewhere.
Oh.
So Local Snake, it means like the boss of that block. So if you are like we were saying, my crew would always say, okay, we're going to go to this noodle place because this crew member is the local snake here, and they know which is the best noodle place.
Wait, how do you say it in Chinese?
I don't know. I have it written down. I mean, it's literally it's local snake. Yeah, local snake.
Local steak 本地蛇
I
or
know.
like a local.
I can send it to you, and you can look it up.
Yeah,
Because I wrote it
yeah.
down because I thought it was so funny.
That's
But it's like it means you're the boss. You're the gang boss of this tiny little. part
you're
of
like the
world.
fixer of that area.
Yeah,
yeah,
you're
yeah.
like the king of the block. Local snake.
Local snake. Okay, it's just giving me pictures of
Yeah,
local
that's not
snakes.
right. I have it because I asked her. I probably have it. Like, oh wait, let me look. Do you want me to look really?
Let's see.
Local snake. I love that term.
Hong.
Wait,
No, wait, no. That's anyways.
No, I'll find it for you if you want. 'Cause
Okay,
it's in
sure.
it's
Yeah,
in
yeah,
the,
yeah.
It's in the chat that I have.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, local snake.
Yeah.
So we would always say that. It's like, you're the local snake.
You're the local snake. Oh,
Yeah.
I don't think I've heard that one. I think I've heard of a bunch of. There's a lot. Taiwan's interesting because it has the Hokkien and it has
Hakka.
the Hakka, all these different
The
languages.
indigenous languages,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah. And that goes back to that our talk about China and Taiwan. Like, sure, China's huge. There's a lot of local dialects there too.
Right.
But the Chinese identity and the Taiwanese identity is a little bit different. 地头蛇. 地头, di means land, to means like head, 蛇. So when you say 地头, it's like you're the head of that land, snake.
Yeah. Yeah.
地头蛇.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, okay.
Yeah. So she explains it.
Nice.
Yeah.
Okay.
Local snake.
You're the local snake. All right. Well, thank you so much, Val.
Sure.
Yeah,
Thank
that
you.
was great. Yeah. Thank you, Dan.
Thank you.
All right. Have a good night. All right.
Good night.
Bye.